So we have a 250,000 Rand loan, which is due to be amortized by equal monthly payments of 2,752 Rand and 72 cents over 20 years. The loan was secured at an interest rate of 12% per annum compounded monthly. And then the payments T40 to T45 are missed. Then also at T45, the interest rate changes to 15% per annum compounded monthly. And in this situation, we're going to pay off the loan in the same amount of time, and we're going to increase the value of the payments from T46 to account for the missed payments and the changes in the interest rate. So let's start by just setting up a timeline so you can visualize it. So we have T0, and we're going to go down to, and it's 20 times 12 is going to give us 240 months, because remember, it's going to finish in 20 years' time. So we know we're going to have FB is equal to 0 at the end there. At T0, we have the 250,000, which is a positive because it's an inflow of money for the loan. And then we have at T1, we're going to have a payment. So that's the minus 2752.72. And this is going to continue pretty much every month. So at T2, the same thing is going to happen. So we're going to also have minus 2752.72 occurring there. And it's going to continue occurring until at T40, things are going to change. So T40, we have missed payments. So it's going to be 0 there. And that's going to continue until T45. That's also going to be 0. Okay. Then we're going to have, after that, a new payment happening that we don't know about. So PMT that we're not sure what it is. And that's going to continue until 240. So let's just finalize this graph by saying 1 before the missed payments so that we can see where the information changes. Because remember, when you separate it into parts to do your calculations, you want to clump it up into where is all the information exactly the same. Okay, so there is our timeline. So once again, T0 to T240. We have the positive 250,000 in the front there. Then we're going to have the monthly payments of the 2,752 Rand and 72 cents, continuing until T34. Then at T40 to T45, we have no payments happening. And then at T46, we have a new payment occurring. What I haven't filled in on this timeline yet is the interest rates. So an easy way to just go about this is to actually just like color in where the interest rates are specific amounts, because then you can automatically see where everything is. So we're going to have from T0 all the way to T45, we're going to have that interest rate. And I'm just going to make this line a little bit thicker so we can see what's happening here. We're going to have an interest rate of the original 12%. And then it's going to change to 15%. So from here onwards, it's 15%. So now you can actually, see at least where you will need to break it up to account for the changes in interest rates. And now we can go ahead and investigate where we need to break it up for like the payments and the annuity versus the normal compounded interest and so on. So in this situation, if we need to break it up, first thing that we can look at is to say, from T0 to T39, we have the exact same information. So that's going to be part 1, because it is an annuity with payments of minus 2,752 Rand and 72 cents. And it stops at T39. Then we have new information occurring for us. So we have that situation of now we just have a normal compound interest. So from T39, we just have compounding interest occurring until the end of T45. So it's building interest. We're not making any payments. So our payments here are PMT is equal to 0. So that's going to be part 2. Then, luckily for us, we can see, firstly, the interest rates stays the same from T45 onwards. So we actually just going to have a part 3, which occurs from this T45 all the way to the end. So it's another ordinary annuity, but with a new monthly payments that is different to part 1. Okay, so draw your timeline and then you separate it into things that look exactly the same. And now we have part 1, part 2, and part 3 to look at. Okay, so let's just move up our screen a bit so that we can now fill in information that we have. So the information that we have is going to be, firstly, we know that the interest here is 12 and the interest here is 15. And it's per annum compounded monthly. So it is CY is equal to 12 and CY is equal to 12. We also know that part 2's interest is in the pink zone, which is that 12 and the CY is equal to 12. So having that colored in with the interest kind of helps you define like where your information is changing. And the nice thing is if you do it this way and you suddenly see that you actually have 2 sets of information, you know you need to break that section up into 2 more parts. Okay, then we're going to have, okay, let's look at part 1 and let's do the time. So let's keep reading the things from our timeline. So we have N for part 1 is 39, because again, we're looking over there because that's where it ends, minus the 0 is going to give us 39. And I know I didn't need to write it as 39 minus 0. I just want to show you the pattern. Then we're going to have N is equal to 45 minus 39. Okay. And then we're going to have, for this one, N is equal to 240 minus 45. And these last 2 ones are going to be 6. And then 240 minus 45 is going to give you 195. Okay, so we have the interest for all of them. We have the number or duration for all of them. And now we can start filling in the other information. So the first one, we have a present value available to us. It is positive 250,000. The second one, its present value is going to come from part 1. So let's just put an arrow there to remind us it's going to come from there. And then our second one has also a present value and it's going to come from part 2. So let's just do the arrow there so long, just to remind us that it is going to come there. Next up, what other information can we input? Well, there's annuities involved, so let's do that. So PMT for part 1 is the minus 2752.72. The PMT for part 2 is 0. And the PMT for part 3 is unknown. That's the thing we're going to need to solve for. Okay, so now we have the interest, we have the duration, we have the PV, we have the payments. What about the PY? So the payments are monthly, so the PY is equal to 12. And usually when we set our timeline, particularly with the N in that, remember our PY and our N need to coincide. So it's going to be PY is equal to 12 the entire way through if we're using our timeline for our durations. So we have PY is equal to 12 and we have PY is equal to 12. Right. Now we're like, okay, what do we have left over? It's just the future values, right? So that future value is the unknown. We're going to solve for it. We are also going to end up having to solve the future value for part 2. And then the future value for part 3 is equal to 0. So now we have all our information kind of given to us and structured so we can go do our working out on our calculators. Personally, this approach works for me because once I have all the information, I can see exactly what I should be doing first, what am I missing, and so on. And I'm putting it straight from the timeline and the actual information. And doing it in rows, all that approach, you can make sure that you are not accidentally forgetting to split apart. So if the moment you notice there's actually two sets of information occurring, you can then break it up some more before you start doing your calculations, and then you realize you actually have to go back and fix things. Okay, so now we have all the information to start doing our calculations. And at this point, I'm going to assume that you're actually pretty decent with your financial calculator. If you are uncomfortable, please go look at the videos of the annuities to do the first one to see how to input it. And for part 2, just the normal compound interest and how to input it. But technically the annuity one is the same input, it's just your PMT is 0. And then the part 3 as well. Okay, so the final answers, and I suggest you pause it and do your working out to make sure that it is correct on your side. We are going to get, for the first one, a future value of, and let's put this in a bright color quick. Here we go, of 238,017.98. And it's going to come out negative on your calculator. So when you store it, and remember you have to store it to use in your second part, you need to take that negativity into account. So plus minus the recall. So a reminder, you're always going to store this value, and then you're going to recall it in the next part. And recall it accurately. So you are going to want it to be positive in the second part. So make sure that it is going to be positive when you recall it. Okay. Then we're going to have the second part. And again, pause it to do your calculations if you haven't done all the calculations yet. And you're going to get minus 152,660.88. And once again, you're going to store this and account for the fact that it's stored as a negative number, so that when you use it in part 3, you're going to use plus minus the recall. So remember, you're not going to type it in here, you're going to use the recall on your calculator. And then you're going to solve for the PMT. And the PMT is going to be minus 3465.70. So the monthly payments have increased to 3,465 Rand and 70 cents. So 3465.70 would be our final answer. In rows, all